Good evening. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Kettering City Council. Today's date is February 22nd, 2022, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll have a brief invocation. Dear Lord, thank you for your abundant blessings and surrounding us with stewardship and a supportive community in Kettering. We thank you for the ability to engage in useful work and for the honor of bearing those important responsibilities. We are grateful for your boundless love for all of us. Please continue to give us the strength and compassion with which to serve, and grant us the wisdom to make appropriate decisions. Help us remain humble and grateful for the opportunity to lead. Guide this council so that we may work in harmony while serving our citizens with integrity and purpose. Allow us to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted in us by our residents. I would like to recognize our Miami Valley Communication Council TV operator, Mike Sporani. Mike, thank you for your assistance as usual. Mrs. Fisher has an excused absence for this evening, so will not be with us. May I call on Mr. Klepaz for a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've reviewed the minutes from both the council meeting and workshop meeting of February the 8th, and I found those to be in order, and I move for their approval.
Second.
Okay. The motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Klepaz?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mayor Lehner?
Yes. Okay. We have a couple of appointments. Honored to move the name of Shannon Wright for the appointment to Partners for Healthy Youth, term ending 12/31/24, and also Missy Mae Walters for the Partners for Healthy Youth, also for term ending 12/31/24. Do we have a motion to approve the above appointments?
I move to approve.
Second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, hearing none. We now have a couple of presentations. The first one is on the homelessness prevention with Aaron Prim, mediation specialist with the Dayton Mediation Center, will be making the presentation this evening. Welcome, Mr. Prim.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. As Mayor said, my name is Aaron Prim, mediation specialist too over at the City of Dayton, the Dayton Mediation Center. Before I get started, there's a few people that I should thank just for allowing us to be here or having our programming within the City of Kettering initially. Tom Robillard being one of those who's here tonight. Also Angela Brown and Andrea Perkins as well. And within the court system, Rob Scott, Melody Quick have been extremely helpful as well with us with our programming. So we're very thankful to those individuals. And so about us at the City of Dayton, Dayton Mediation Center, we're a small outfit of about, well now, probably about 13 or 14 people. We just added 5 people from our mediation response unit, one of the first in the country, or may very well be the first in the country. That's a side note. About 14 or 15 people, rarely heard of, but at the end of the day, we're very supportive to our community because what we do is we're neutral third parties that support people in the midst of conflict. And so in that particular way, I am the program manager for our homelessness prevention landlord-tenant programming, which seeks to support landlords and tenants in those conversations they have with each other, or perhaps they have individually, depending on the situation, so that hopefully they're able to come up with more productive and constructive ends to their situation. And so in that particular way, this past 6 months ago, we were able to get funding through Montgomery County and also the city of Dayton, which allowed us ESGCV funds, which allowed for us to expand our programming throughout the county. And so in that particular way, we were able to come and support the city of Kettering and the Kettering Municipal Court with the systems that are available there for landlords and tenants. And so it's an opportunity for those individuals to get our card. So within your envelope or the handout that I distributed to you all, you're going to see multiple things in there. So one is a yellow card that goes out with every eviction filing that comes through the Kettering Municipal Court, and also Vandalia Municipal Court, Montgomery County Municipal Courts, Dayton Municipal Court, Montgomery County Common Pleas Court as well, okay? And so all the individuals get this card and they have the opportunity to call us to talk about the situation and see what they can do about that. This is a great advance because prior to our expansion or the money, the ESGCV funds, we only operated within the city of Dayton. And so now being able to work out into the county, specifically Kettering, that has been a fantastic thing, and we've spoken to many of your residents. The Stay Put program has been very instrumental in that as well, which is working with all of the residents to order to stay housed. And so we make multiple referrals to them in that particular way. Also, you see this particular card, our RAT card, which we distribute, generally speaking, throughout the world, or throughout the county anyway, to individuals to let them know what the possible benefits of mediation are for tenants, for landlords, and they can call me. As you can see, my phone number is on the back of that. And then also on the front that they can give us a call for these things. Our call volume has increased tremendously, given the fact that we've been able to work throughout the county, specifically with you all here in the city of Kettering. And so this teamwork, this synergy that we have, I feel has been very instrumental for your residents in their ability to stay housed. And so there also, let me also throw in a quick plug for us, generally speaking, the Mediation Center. The Mediation Center does so many things. One of those things is working with the Montgomery County Juvenile Court for parenting time, custody, also for juvenile diversion. And so we've had some people that have come over from the school, I can recall, fantastic individual that supported the city of Kettering with those particular situations. Also, as we talked, we already have landlord-tenant programs we talked about, also small claims court, and pretty much wherever there is a need for a neutral third party to support circumstances or individuals that are in the midst of conflict, we're available to them.
Okay,
Are there any questions?
thank you. Is that it? Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Prim?
I have a
Mrs. Hall?
question. Your services have done a tremendous amount to prevent homelessness in Dayton. Do you see a way to increase your presence in Kettering courts as a homelessness prevention tool here?
Well, certainly, it feels as if there is additional space to be had. Within the city of Dayton specifically, of course, where we had been doing the majority of our business, we support not only with the information that comes through our cards, but we're also able to work within the court system with a mediated agreement that we have. And so in that particular way, whenever a eviction has been filed within the court, then there's an opportunity to mediate or to sit down with the parties. Of course, what we do is we're neutral third parties, and so it's not something mandatory that people have to do, but certainly something that they can do if the opportunity presents itself. And so so they can mediate before court or prior to an eviction being filed. And so at that point, the mediated agreement certainly does not go in court record, but if once it has been filed in court, then it has the opportunity to do so, and there's a couple of outcomes that can be brought out through that. One, there's an opportunity to agree on a move-out date, and then two, there's an opportunity to agree upon possible arrearages that might be owed. And if they're able to come up with an agreement about either of those items, and then they're followed through upon, then the case is dismissed. On the flip side, if there's an agreement that's not followed through upon, either about the move-out date or the arrearages that need to be paid, then the property owner has the opportunity to return to court without any more further court action and file for the writ of restitution. And so it incentivizes on both sides. It incentivizes the resident to follow through because there's an opportunity. If they don't do so, then they could be evicted immediately, and then, which sends out the bailiff, and then also allows for the residents to not be evicted in those situations. So that perhaps could be an additional space that could be filled.
Any follow-up?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Just on behalf of our citizens, so thank you very much for the work you do and the whole mediation center. It's doing invaluable service to the community. So if we can do anything for you, please let us know.
Oh, thank you. And I also would be remiss before I leave to say thank you also to your senior resources coordinator. She's been phenomenal as well.
We will agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much, everyone. You have a great evening.
Thank you. Which one? Okay, thank you. Okay, we now have a presentation on pickleballs. Pickleball update. Mary Beth Odell, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts, will be making the presentation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Myself and many people will be making the presentation today, but incredibly exciting to be here tonight to talk about a project that only in Kettering could happen. But to give you some details before that, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. If you haven't played yet, you're behind the curve. Although it was created 57 years ago, yes, 57 years ago, by 3 dads in Seattle because their kids were bored with their usual summer activities. Of course, they didn't have Kettering Parks, Recreation, Cultural Arts there. That's probably why they were bored. But the legend of the name was created because one of the original creators, Joel Pritchard, one of the dads, dog's name was Pickles. And Pickle chased the balls that were used in their game. Thus, pickleball was invented. That's the legend. You can Google it, and you might get multiple answers, but that's the one I found today. But really, to tell you more about how pickleball has grown, since in 2021, pickleball grew to 4.8 million Americans, up 39% since 2019. This is according to the U.S. Pickleball Association. 61% of pickleball players are men, 39% are women. 60% of players, avid players, are over the age of 55. And 79% of casual players are 54 or younger. So you can see this pickleball spans all ages. But this project is even more special. Some of you might remember that in 2015, we dedicated 6 courts at Kennedy Park. We transformed tennis courts that we leased, or didn't really lease, but were given to from the schools to transform 6 courts. And at the time, we were one of the only communities in the region that had the official pickleball courts. But based on the statistics and the numbers of increase, in June of last year, 2021, probably 6 of the pickleball pals came to meet with Gary Schussler and myself to talk about how we could expand the courts at Kennedy Park. Knowing we live in a city like Kettering, we spent a couple months brainstorming ways that we could work together and collaborate, the city, the citizens, and our Kettering Park Foundation. We created a website, materials, and Pickleball Pals went to town on raising $194,000, including $70,000 from a lead donor, $50,000 from the Latham Fund, plus $50,000 for the Capital Improvement Program, which was a city contribution, for a total of $244,000. What an amazing project. 6 existing courts will be renovated, and 6 new courts will be added at Kennedy Park. We appreciate the city schools' participation in this because the actual pickleball courts sit on land of Kennedy School. Again, this project demonstrates it. I can't even tell you. It was just so amazing. We worked well. We communicated well together. We found where we could leverage our dollars, where we could put the dollars. The Park Foundation was fantastic with that. I also want to give a shout out to engineering department, work with Gary on the design and construction documents for the pickleball courts. So only this city, it's a testament to the quality that this city works together, not just city staff, but residents as well. And with that, I'd like to introduce 4 of the pickleball pals who we met with and have met with over the last 7-8 months. I'd like to introduce Mike Eckley, who is a pickleball player. Come on up, Mike. Kettering Park Foundation board member. Mo Albaugh, and Mo was an original pickleball player who requested our help in 2012. Jeannie Hyde, pickleball member, and Terry Inskeet, pickleball pal member. Mike?
Thank you, Mary Beth, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As a member of the Kettering Parks Foundation, I've been real proud to be a part of this whole situation. We were able to leverage our 501(c) to help raise the money, or to have the money to give to the city of Kettering through this whole thing, to really benefit the community. As a pickleball player, avid pickleball player, not very good, but avid at it. What I really have enjoyed the most about pickleball, other than the exercise, is the community that's been formed by this. If you'd come by the pickleball courts during the summer, starting at 7:30 in the morning, people are flowing out there to come and play pickleball. We'll have upwards of 40 to 60 people at times out there to play. But it's not so much the playing, it's the community of people. People just enjoy being together and having an association with each other. So again, I'm really proud to be a part of this whole organization and that we were able to work with the city to make this happen. So I want to thank you for that. And I know Mo has a couple comments here.
Yes, my name's Mo Albaugh. I've been associated with this pickleball group since probably 2014 when we got together and we used to line the courts with chalk. We used to get in a little trouble. There used to be, tennis players would complain about the chalk on the courts and things like that. And the other reason why I'm here is I'm going to present a letter with a few signatures. This is only a portion of the pickleball players in the community, one for the city and one for the council as, letter of record. I don't know, I moved into Ohio in 2005 and I didn't have much to do, and then pickleball came along, and it's been quite a thing. I mean, as far as being social and everything else, people network together on different problems and things like that. So if you have a chance, come out to the courts, and there's other courts in the area, and Centerville, they tried to copy Kettering, but didn't do too good of a job. I don't want to start anything, but they have 6 courts also, but they worked with Mary Beth and their department and everything else. We had talked to those people and everything, so it was coordination. So I want to thank the city and everybody involved, all the participants and everything into this project, because it couldn't be, done without the city, and it couldn't be done without the players. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's kind of the feel-good sort of story we like to hear. It's a little bit different. Mike, did you have something else?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, if you could come down, we'd like to present you with a check to the city.
Okay, I'll do that any day.
And a photo op, of course.
Hey, Mike, do the pickleball players ever use the splash pad over there? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
Mary Beth, can we see a demonstration, please, of pickleball?
Yeah, we're going to need to see how this works.
It is fun, I guarantee you. It is fun.
I have never played. I know. have not played yet.
It's disgraceful.
Well, Mary Beth, now that I've heard you've never played, maybe I will challenge you to our first game for ribbon cutting purposes. And I have never played either, and I have a feeling you will clean my clock. Yeah. You play? I play. Okay. What do we do with these? Okay, great. All right. We lost the superintendent. I was about to talk about it. You can come back. Yeah, right. Okay. All right, there are no public hearings this evening, so we will move on to public comment on legislation. And I will read this, although I don't think we have anyone who wishes to speak tonight, but anyone wishing to speak before council with comments or new information about the legislation on tonight's agenda may do so at this time. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Speakers must state their name and address. Comments should be addressed to council. If you have comments that are not about the legislation on tonight's agenda, there will be an opportunity for those to be heard later in the meeting. No one here to speak, I don't believe. Okay. All right, we will now move on to ordinances and second reading, of which there are none. So we will move on to resolutions. I'd like to call on Mr. Klepaz.
Thank you, Your
introduce
Honor.
the first bill.
I have a resolution this evening authorizing the city manager to purchase computers and servers from Dell for the annual computer and server replacement program. The estimated cost is $138,250. That is the amount budgeted. It's requested by Administrative Systems Department. I move for approval.
Second?
We'll call on Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will allow the city to purchase computers from Dell for the annual PC and server replacement program. This is the annual program that we've been running for a number of years, which replaces approximately 20% of the city's existing computer fleet and our servers, 20% of our servers across all departments. The vast majority of the cost, about $108,000 estimated, is for desktop computers and laptops. The other $30,000 is for replacement servers. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions of Mr. Bergstresser? Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Klepaz.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Duval.
Yes.
Mr. Duke.
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase television, radio, newspaper, billboard, and internet advertising for the 2022 Phrase Pavilion performance season from various sources. This is being requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. The estimated cost is $259,000, and the amount budgeted is $259,000. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, we'd like to call on Mr. Bergstresser again for any staff comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the city to purchase television, radio, newspaper, billboard, and internet advertising for the upcoming Phrase season from various sources. We will not be using competitive bargaining on this process due to the practical nature because of the fact that most of these sources have fixed rates for their advertising. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Bergstresser? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Duval.
Yes.
Mr. Duke.
Yes.
Mr. Klepaz.
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into contracts for entertainment and for the Phrase Pavilion 2022 performance season. Estimated cost is $2.8 million. That is also the amount budgeted and requested by Parks Recreation Department. Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution, as mentioned, will authorize the city to negotiate for entertainment for the 2022 Phrase Pavilion season and to enter into contracts for the performers. The total fees we have budgeted for this year are $2.8 million. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Duke,
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements for discounts, complimentary tickets, and complimentary program participation to benefit the advertising and promotion of calendar year 2022 Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts programs in the 2022 Frays Pavilion performance season. This is being requested by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department, and I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. As mentioned, this resolution will authorize the city to enter into agreements with various persons, businesses, or other entities for performance discounts and/or complimentary tickets to Frays Pavilion performances and programs. We'll mention, very important to mention, that city council and city staff are not eligible for these discounts or complimentary tickets. I'm sorry. Happy to answer any questions.
Clarifying that? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Duke,
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas,
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to authorize payment of music licensing fees for concerts at the Frays Pavilion during 2022. Estimated cost is $80,000. It is included in the budget requested by Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, once again, Mr. Bergstresser, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution's fairly self-explanatory. It basically authorized the city to pay for any music licensing fees to ASCAP or BMI for the 2022 concerts at the Frays. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Duke,
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to contract for emergency home repair services with Miami Valley Community Action Partnership. The estimated cost is $50,000. Funds are available for that. Requested by Planning and Development Department. I move for approval.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This resolution will authorize the city to enter into an agreement with the Miami Valley Community Action Partnership to conduct emergency home repairs for low and moderate income Kettering homeowners. We've been working with the Community Action Partnership in previous years to provide this type of service. And as a result of a staff increase at the Community Action Partnership, they are now able to serve more clients. This proposal will serve at least 10 clients with repair costs not to exceed $5,000 per client. Be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Kleipas.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Duke,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Mayor Laner, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to accept reimbursement from the Ohio Attorney General's Office for police officer training costs. This is being requested by the police department. The estimated cost is $45,891, and there is no amount budgeted for this.
Move for approval.
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. As mentioned, this resolution will authorize the city to accept a $45,891 reimbursement from the Ohio Attorney General's Office for continuing professional development training of our Kettering Police Department that happened in 2021. Be happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Duke,
Yes.
Mr. Kleipas,
Yes.
Mayor Laner.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have a resolution to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Kettering, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2022. Estimated cost is $65,891 and no amount budgeted currently and requested by the Finance Department. Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have two items on the supplemental appropriation for this evening. The first is a $20,000 supplemental for personnel services in the Planning and Development Department. The city is employing 2 contract employees for a limited time through early June for the purpose of performing duties of the Stay Put Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And then we have a second appropriation for the previous resolution for the $45,000 891 reimbursement from the state of Ohio for police officer continuing professional development training. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes?
Mayor Laner?
Yes. We now have ordinances in first reading. We do have an ordinance tonight. Who's got that one?
I believe it's me.
Where'd we, Lisa?
Your Honor, I have an emergency ordinance to amend Chapter 1104 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Kettering regarding flood damage reduction and declare an emergency. I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bergstresser.
Thank you, Your Honor. This emergency ordinance will amend Chapter 1104 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Kettering regarding flood damage reduction. This ordinance needs to be modified in various sections in order to comply with the National Flood Insurance Program and be in place before the new FEMA flood maps become effective on March 8th. So upon approval this evening, the ordinance will become effective because it is in emergency fashion. Be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Duke?
Yes.
Mr. Klepass?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes?
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Laner?
Yes. We now move on to certifications and petitions, and I believe that we do have a certification. Ms. Kapinski.
Your Honor, we do have one certification this evening. Planning Commission is recommending approval of PC 22-001 zoning tax amendment. A public hearing regarding this request will be held on Tuesday, March 8, 2022 at the Kettering City Council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the manager's report. I believe that Mr. Bergstresser is going to give that report tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We have a number of items on the community update for this evening. First is a scam alert. So we've had several residents in and around Kettering that have been receiving phone calls and voicemails from persons pretending to be Kettering police detectives. The number that is being used in these phone call scams is not a number that the KPD uses. If a Kettering detective is trying to reach you, the callback number would be 937-296-2555. If you are unsure about the identity of an officer that's calling you, please call the number above to confirm their identity. As I mentioned in the explanation for the emergency ordinance on this evening's agenda, FEMA will be issuing revised flood insurance rate maps for the Little Miami watershed in Montgomery County, which basically comprises areas in the eastern half of Kettering that have existing floodplains. These new maps will become effective on March 8th of this year. We do have a dedicated site on our webpage for this information. So basically the easiest way to get there is to go to our main page, ketteringoh.org, scroll down about halfway, and there's a button for floodplain information. That can take you some written information about floodplains in Kettering and what these new maps mean. And frankly, probably the easiest way to do if residents have questions about the new maps and what it might mean for their individual property is to call the engineering department at 296-2436. We do have a number of engineers available to answer questions that residents may have about the new maps. We went through this process back in 2005, so for those of us like myself who've been around since 2005, we are familiar with a lot of the changes that have been made and what the requirements for floodplains are, so we encourage people to call. We're currently accepting nominations for the Mayor's Award for Volunteer Service. Nominations are accepted until March 15th. For more information, or if you want to submit a nomination, please visit the city's website at ketteringoh.org, or you can contact the volunteer office at 296-2433. It is tax season, and forms are available on the city's website. and also available to be picked up in paper at the Kettering Tax Department lobby, which is located here on the Government Center campus in the North Building. The deadline for filing this year is April 18th. And then finally, for the community update, we have our Yard Debris Center. Spring is coming, despite the weather this week. So Monday, March 7th marks the first day that our Yard Debris Center will be open. It is located on Woodman Center Drive at 1840 Woodman Center. Hours of operation are the same as in years past, Monday through Friday, 3 to 8, and Saturday from 9 to 3. So, Your Honor, that's all we have tonight for the slides on the community update, but I did want to go ahead and mention a couple other items of interest. First is an item that we discussed earlier this evening at our council workshop. We've been having discussions for a number of workshops now regarding the use of our American Rescue Act plan funds that we receive from federal government, particularly as it relates to the purchase of capital equipment, which we refer to as our rolling stock or fleet items. So think things like fire engines, medics, dump trucks, things of the like. Under the federal procurement rules that are required with the use of ARPA funds, those rules do not allow for the specification of exact makes and models of equipment and other vehicles, which will likely prevent us from obtaining replacements for existing equipment that matches what is already in our fleet and becomes a problem when we are trying to maintain this equipment. Therefore, we recommended to the council earlier this evening that we go ahead and use the ARPA funds that have been committed to capital equipment purchases, which as of now is $4.5 million in total and $2.1 million in 2022, that we would commit those funds to public safety payroll costs, and then we in turn apply the equivalent general fund dollars from those payroll costs to purchase the capital equipment through our regular competitive purchasing process. These processes that we typically use are competitive. We use competitive quotes, cooperative governmental purchasing agencies, and the State of Ohio State Term Schedule procurement process, just to name a few. We recently used this methodology to purchase a replacement medic for our fire department, and we feel this methodology is the right way to go forward with capital equipment purchases. So, as I mentioned, we talked about this in the workshop and just want to make sure the community understood that this is a slight change on the way we are using the ARPA dollars, but they are still being, the equivalent amount of money is still being applied towards areas that have already been identified as priorities by City Council. And finally, Your Honor, I just want to mention on a sad note that Tracy Williams, who was the former city manager for the city of West Carrollton for 30 years, which frankly is a long time to be a city manager, he recently passed away. And so we wanted to express our condolences to not only his family and friends, but also to the city of West Carrollton. Earlier in my career, I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Williams. Did not know him very well, but every time I had met him, I was just extremely impressed by his professionalism and just seemed like a really all-around good guy. And I think, frankly, that's why he was the city manager for West Carrollton for so long, just the level of respect he had in the community. And his professionalism and expertise were really well valued. So, again, just on behalf of the City of Kettering, I wanted to express our condolences to the Williams family and the City of West Carrollton for their loss. That's all I have this evening, Your Honor. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see, audience participation. I do not believe there's anyone in the audience who wished to address council. Is there? Okay, there's not. So we'll move on to committee reports or members' reports. Let's see, start with Mr. Klepas.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, every couple of weeks when we meet, we learn something else. Tonight, we heard something from Mary Beth Odell about pickleball. I always understood where football came from and baseball and basketball and racquetball, but I'm not buying this pickleball coming from a dog. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting that pickleball is named after a dog that was running after that thing. I have no report from the last 2 weeks, but I will remind everyone to get your COVID vaccinations, wear your mask, and shop Kettering. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Hall.
I want to say happy Tuesday. It's the only time the calendar is going to say 2/22/2022, so that's an interesting note for today. One thing I want to mention that
Can't hear you for, yep.
another thing I want to mention is, we have this amazing housing market in Kettering right now. We need a lot more housing, not least of which is because of the tie of housing to attracting jobs and keeping jobs. The Montgomery County Auditor's Office processed a record-breaking number of property transfers last year, nearly 50% more than 2020, and nearly $1 billion more in revenue. There's a lot to be thankful for here in Kettering. We have this amazing housing market. We have a A+ crime rating. We have great schools. And this is really good news for property owners like my family and for people who are realtors like my husband. This doesn't always translate into great news for people who are at risk of eviction. And I really appreciated, and that's for a number of reasons, but I really appreciated the presentation from the mediation center this evening. It's a simple thing that can be done in our courts that we could bring more attention to, I think, to prevent homelessness in Kettering because of rising housing costs, because of people on fixed incomes who are at risk of eviction. And they are doing a great job, and I hope we will look at increasing their services in Kettering. It's a win-win for landlords and renters. And an important part of making Kettering work for everyone in the housing market. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Your Honor. Last Wednesday, I had the privilege, as one of my committee responsibilities for the MVCC, public access, and I had not been to that facility before. It was very impressive. The people are very impressive, and it opened my eyes of the capabilities of what's available to us. And also, personally, I intend to take one of their classes and avail their services for a pet project of mine.
Wonderful.
So it was a wonderful experience.
Good. Ms. Duval?
First of all, I would like to echo Mr. Scott. I was also at the MVCC meeting, and it was fascinating, the amount of services that they provide, and I am very much looking forward to the Scott and Scott show that I assume we'll be seeing very soon. It's very cool. I want to echo Mrs. Hall and thank you, Mr. Prim, for his presentation about the mediation information. Any awareness we can get for those services is so vital and so important to help keep people housed. So thank you to Mr. Prim. I want to give a little shout out to the students at Alter High School, specifically the Key Club members who I was pleased to be a part of a volunteer effort by them this past Saturday. They packed over 26,000 meals. Wow. For the, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, and I apologize, Lesothos Food Initiative. I was there, but I still can't pronounce it. It provides meals for a small country near South Africa, and there's great need for it. And 26,000 meals with a lot of hands and a little bit of time, you can make a big difference. And my last thing is, last night I was able to attend a joint meeting of community groups similar to the Board of Community Relations from Kettering. And we are hoping to work with these other groups to share resources, promote each other's programs, and really get the word out on the programs that we're all doing and hopefully work together, like our Juneteenth program. And I am very, very happy to be a part of that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Duke.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of things. First, I want to thank Councilwoman Lisa Duval, who made an excellent presentation regarding Kiwanis to the Kettering Leadership Academy meeting last week. She's a member of that organization, and it was Organization Day, and she did a terrific job, and hopefully she gets some membership there. And also to Mark Schwederman, who's not here, who pinched in for Rotary at the last minute and did a great job. So, Mark, thank you. I do want to just continue on, I think, with Steve's comments regarding Tracy Williams. I had the pleasure of working with Tracy for over 31 years during his time in West Carrollton, and even a few things beyond that after he retired. And not only was he the consummate city manager, he was a great attorney. He was an amazing guy who was a great listener, but Tracy was always the kind of person that no matter what you asked him for, he would try to make it happen, whether it was in his city or not in his city. And so regards and prayers to his family with his passing. And finally, as mentioned earlier, don't forget COVID, folks. Boy, the numbers are looking great. Let's keep it up. Keep your masks on if you can. If you're not vaccinated, please do so. And that's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duke. And I will finish off here with a couple sort of random items. One is, as I was reading through my packet, I came across a story about our senior resource connection, and Vicki Carrer, who one of the people earlier made some reference to her, and I shouted her out. But here's what's so wonderful about Vicki. You know, with that bad storm we had 2 weeks ago, and we're all talking about plowing the streets, Vicki got on the telephone and literally called 108 seniors in the city of Kettering to make sure that they were okay and they didn't have any special needs. So I want to really shout out for Vicki. Tracy Williams was one of those true leaders. I was fortunate enough to know him the first time I was on Kettering City Council a number of years ago, and worked with Tracy on first-tier suburbs and lots of other things. And he was an absolute gentleman and will be sorely missed. Listening to the presentation on evictions and the homelessness, I was thinking, you know, as bad as it is and as much as we're doing, thank God we aren't Portland. I was in Portland over the weekend, and I think it's okay to say this since they're clear across the country. The number of tents all over that city where people are living, it's just hundreds of tents. And there goes my telephone. It has a habit of doing that. But you know, we are blessed that we have programs that are keeping people from doing that. And I realize we don't have the weather to draw people to us the way they do in Portland, but I think an awful lot has to do with the community and the leadership of the community. So just wanted to mention that. Want to send out best wishes to Patrolman Regina Breyer from the Kettering Police Department, who is retiring after 27 years. And we have 2 new police officers who've just been hired, Officer Joseph Lang and Jacob Straley. Is that how you say it? Okay, who will be joining our excellent department. So just wanted to shout out to them. And last but not least, Bruce came close to it. I thought he was going to steal by thunder, but I think we should all applaud the fact that we have no new COVID cases in Kettering for the last 2 weeks. That's it. So I said we should applaud it, so applaud it. All right. All right, with that, that concludes our meeting for tonight. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.